So I was playing Vanguard recently and I felt an itch. I immediately popped to the clinic to make sure I didn't have a Soprano Tycoon demonstration, but it turned out it was just collegitis. The itch to progress, to get better, and to build up my kill streaks by eliminating soldiers in a tight, well-designed map. Then I booted up the campaign with plans of doing a video on it, and got a glitchy, uninteresting story that felt more like a collection of World War II themed levels than a cohesive narrative. It made me decide to go back to the basics, and to one of the best World War II games ever released. No, not this. Call of Duty World at War. World at War was the 9th Call of Duty game released in 2008, and it came straight off the heels of the most successful game in the series to that point, Modern Warfare. This game came back to World War II after just ditching it one game ago. Despite the idea being tired nowadays, this is the best World War II Call of Duty, not held back by technology, and not afraid to show the horrors of war. The game shows all the true horrors that come with World War II. The Japanese use swords to cut open enemies and charge at you with bayonets, and the Germans slaughter bleeding Russians right in front of your eyes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start from the beginning. The game opens with the Pacific Front, not yet covered in the series until this point, as we are shown real footage of World War II and told about a squad that went missing, including us. We are Private Miller, and we've been captured in a Japanese POW camp with our fellow soldiers dying in front of us as the Japanese interrogate us. We are saved by more US soldiers, and we begin our assault to escape the Imperial Army, getting caught in traps and bonsai rush throughout. The American missions serve as a means to experiment with interesting gameplay ideas, with the Japanese Imperial Army using odd tactics in order to get the upper hand on the Americans, with the Soviet levels having average gameplay but having more interesting characters and story. Speaking of the Soviets, we wake up in Stalingrad as fellow brothers are slaughtered in front of us by the Germans. We crawl around before seeing we are not the only survivor of this massacre. There's another. A man called Viktor Reznov. Reznov becomes our main character we follow throughout the Soviet levels, as he wishes for revenge on the Germans for what they did to the Russian people. He's easy to empathise with, despite sometimes asking us to commit atrocities similar to the calibre of the Germans, calling into question your actions throughout, and whether or not you agree with Reznov's idea of revenge and victory above having the moral high ground. It's not just Reznov either. There are a few areas in the game where the Russians are needlessly brutal, killing surrendering soldiers or guys that are bleeding out on the floor. One of the characters does comment on this and is always told that he's wrong for wanting to give these soldiers mercy. I mean, they aren't the enemy. This is one of the things that makes World of War's campaign so brutal, but also incredible. As you can probably tell, I really enjoyed the campaign. I enjoyed the Russian missions more, however. The characters kept me interested right up until the penultimate mission, where I stormed the Reichstag and raised the Soviet flag above Berlin, claiming victory for my country and putting an end to the deadliest conflict in human history. The American missions were okay. They were kind of generic in terms of story, but the gameplay was a little more interesting because of the many tactics. However, this also includes some frustration as you are bombarded with enemies jumping out of the grass, and especially later on, grenades. I have to agree with this line by Reznov about blowtorch and corkscrew.
Call of Duty's hardest mode isn't taken very seriously, at least today. Not just because campaigns went from emulating battlefields to action movies. Even greats like World at War are infamous for using more grenades and were manufactured during the Second World War. A decade later, and I still call this level bullshit and corkscrew.
This one mission is incredibly frustrating, with the Japanese pulling all the stops to stop you from advancing. And this isn't even the final Japanese stage. The final stage is arguably more fair than this level. It's the only level in the game that really annoyed me. The rest were all incredible, well balanced, and not ball-bustingly frustrating. Moving on from the campaign, I unfortunately wasn't able to access World at War's multiplayer on the PC version, due to a bug that stops you being able to make an online profile, and I don't have a 360 or an Xbox One to set up to try it. So we'll have to move on to the bonus mode that was included at the end of the campaign for World at War. World at War introduced us to a brand new mode, the first game to have a bonus along with campaign and multiplayer, Nazi Zombies. This would go on to become a staple of Treyarch developed COD games, as people fell in love with the simple yet tense distraction. At this point in time, COD 4 was dominating the multiplayer scene, but World at War made a mode that has stood the test of time and it's still going today. Let's run through each of the maps and talk about them. Nacht der Untoten is where it all began, and it's rather obvious. 3 rooms, no power, no perks, 1 mystery box. This is all you get. And it's still pretty fun. There's no pack-a-punch or Easter egg quest, no complicated storyline, just plain, simple fun, killing zombies. The next map to release was Verruckt. After the unexpected success of Nacht der Untoten, Treyarch decided to put some time into developing this mode beyond the basic fun of the initial map. Verruckt added in some of the pillars that are now integral parts of the zombies experience. We now have perks, including our baby, Juggernog, and we have power to turn on before we can get those perks. There are also some traps you can activate. The map is also incredibly creepy, with screaming in the background and being set in an asylum. The map has a great design, as you cannot access it all until you activate power, guiding players to this new feature. And that's all I have to say about Verruckt. So let's move on to Shinonuma, was the first map to introduce us to our iconic characters, Richthofen, Nikolai, Dempsey, and Takio. These were initially just stereotypes to add some flavour dialogue, but soon became characters we'd care about and want to see how their story played out. It also has an interesting mechanic of random perk locations in the 4 huts. You enter the hut and a random perk spawns, encouraging the player to explore the whole map in order to get the perks they want. But there's still one thing missing from the overall zombies experience, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Der Riese was the final map released for World at War Zombies and introduced our final pillar, Pack-a-Punch. It was unlocked by linking multiple teleporters to the central teleporter, and a door would eventually open up for you to upgrade your weapons. So, the zombies experience is very basic in this game, but you also have to remember that this was setting up the experience Treyarch would build upon for the next 10 plus years, to give us some of the most fun, engaging, and complicated yet simple maps we would come to love. As this review comes to an end, I find myself enjoying World at War, but not feeling a need to revisit it outside the odd lust for the gritty campaign. The multiplayer is inaccessible on PC as far as I can see, and the zombie maps have been included on future games, particularly Black Ops 3. So where do I stand on World at War? It's an incredible game that you should definitely play, but maybe wait for a sale so that you don't spend too much on it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Check out my social media in the description below, and consider subbing to my Patreon. Only if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.